So Joe Biden is on the trail. Apparently, Joe Biden's the only person who's talking about Donald Trump. Although, I think certainly
Bernie's been talking
about him quite a bit. I'm sure all the other candidates, but only Joe Biden, according to the news, is talking about Donald Trump. I'm not sure what that's about. But here he is, Joe Biden, with his slogan, which I actually think, do we determine whether or not this was specifically the actual slogan that George W. Bush used to run against Al Gore, making United States moral again?
His was restoring honor and dignity to the White House,
Okay,
but it's an absolute repeat.
It's
no doubt.
basically the same thing here.
The president has a motto, make America great again. Do you have one?
Make America moral again. Make America return to the essence of who we are, the dignity of the country, the dignity of people, treating our people with dignity, and this god-awful deliberate division that's being taken in order to separating people to aggrandize his own power.
Make America return to the essence of who we are would be Martua.
Martua. Biden also came out yesterday, said he is not for. I mean, so we've heard what Joe Biden's campaign is based upon. It's to make America moral again, to return it to its essence, et cetera, et cetera. He also, when Joe Biden got specific, he said he is not for Medicare for all.
It's not moral.
And, well, all right, here's the question. Joe Biden wants to make America moral again, and he will not support the idea of healthcare as a human right in this country. A public option in a marketplace of private competitors available only for 10 million Americans is not perceiving healthcare as a human right. Adi Barkan, an activist, healthcare activist, who was really bad. I mean, I think maybe people recall that at one point he was on a flight, and he has, is it ALS? That has been slowly, basically eating away at his ability to speak, walk, etc. And I think it was only maybe it was less than 2 years ago when he was on a flight. I think it was with Ted Cruz. I mean, that's how he sort of got on the national scene. And he recorded an exchange, I think it was with Ted Cruz, but I can't remember, where he was basically saying, how can you cut the Affordable Care Act? We need to expand health care. Well, he was at a hearing yesterday. Was it today or yesterday? Today's hearing this morning. It's a Medicare for All hearing. He is using a device which basically tracks his eye movements, I believe, that allows him to type into a computer and then it generates a voice. So let's hear that testimony.
3 years ago, Rachel and I felt like we had reached the mountaintop. We had fulfilling careers, a wonderful community of friends and family, and a smiling, chubby infant boy. We could see decades of happiness stretching out before us. The sun was shining and there was not a cloud in sight. And then, out of the clear blue sky, we were struck by lightning. ALS. A mysterious neurological disease with no cure and no good treatment. A life expectancy of 3 to 4 years. Most of its victims are in their 50s and 60s. I was 32. Every month since my diagnosis, my motor neurons have died out, my muscles have disintegrated, and I have become increasingly paralyzed. I am speaking to you through this computer because my diaphragm and tongue are simply not up to the task. Although my story is tragic, it is not unique. Indeed, in many ways, it is not so rare. Jennifer Epps Addison, the president of my organization, is sitting next to me. Like me, her husband was struck at a young age by a neurological disease. Multiple sclerosis. 10% of Americans have a serious disability. Every family is eventually confronted with serious illness or accidents. On the day we are born and on the day we die, and on so many days in between, all of us need medical care. And yet in this country, the wealthiest in the history of human civilization, we do not have an effective or fair or rational system for delivering that care. I will not belabor the point, because you and your constituents are well aware of the problems: high costs, bad outcomes, mind-boggling bureaucracy, racial disparities, bankruptcies, geographic inequities, and obscene profiteering. The ugly truth is this: health care is not treated as a human right in the United States of America. This fact is outrageous. And it is far past time that we change it. Say it loud for the people in the back: health care is a human right.
I mean, it is sort of shocking to me that Joe Biden would come out with his proposal. I think it was yesterday, in the context of this. But this is, the angle that he is riding, I don't know. It's going to be fascinating. I mean, obviously, look. I think if we were to do a poll of the audience of this program, I would imagine that Joe, of all the candidates, and I think there's a fairly wide disparity of support for different candidates in our audience. Joe Biden, I would imagine, would be near the bottom, certainly in the bottom half, I would say, of the distribution of what people in this audience would want. For the most part. Obviously, there's some people who do. But it's going to be fascinating to see how much of what Joe Biden's actual record has been gets disseminated to the broad Democratic base. I mean, look, there was, I think, a real understanding, a real sense. Maybe this is a slight exaggeration. But in 2008, when Joe Biden was picked, I think there was a real sense that people had is like, Joe Biden's never going to be president. He's going to be, past the age in which we generally elect presidents. And I think over the course of those 8 years, in part because Donald Trump won at age 70, in part because Bernie Sanders, ran a vibrant campaign as someone who was going to be older, and people wanted Sanders and Warren. Joe Biden's in play, but his record, really, I would say, I mean, of all the Democrats in the race, I mean, there's a couple, I don't know, ones who may not make it through the debate, or, Klobuchar, but his record is not good.
Well, and frankly,
even in the context of contemporaneous with his sort of heyday, he was in the more conservative part of the Democratic Party. And now it really is, he's anachronistic. And it's going to be interesting to see if he can maintain this support that comes with being Barack Obama's VP, which is really what it is. It's really going to be a function of just how much of Joe Biden's record is going to be sort of more, the awareness of his record is going to permeate the Democratic voter. We'll see.
It's going to be fun to watch Bernie and Warren smack him around, though. Like, she came out strong on the first day that he announced, because she's been dealing with him for years because she took on the credit card companies, and he was, pro credit card companies.